Well, hi, everyone. Guy behind the camera is now in front of the camera. Let's see if I can take off my shirt so I can show my green for today. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
I didn't even think about wearing anything green.
And I did this on purpose. I
have an olive-colored
I did not think about wearing green today. It was totally on accident. I just like to wear a nice Arboretum shirt, and I knew the logo would stand out very nicely in today's program. So welcome. I'm glad you can join us today to learn all about Narcissus. And that, of course, is the name of the genus. You might know them as daffodils or jonquils as well. But Narcissus is, of course, the official name. And Tim, you want to mention where that came from? I know that was on your sheet.
I guess it comes from a Greek word, and I'm going to murder the pronunciation part probably, but narke. So Narke, however that's pronounced in Greek. But it had the meaning of intoxicated sleep or numbness due to sedative alkaloids in the bulbs. So I guess that's how it connected those. Or narcotic, or is another word derived from that same thing. And of course, Narcissus was I guess he was a Greek.
A Greek figure in mythology.
Youth in mythology, yes, who was a little bit full of himself and liked to look at his reflection in the water, hence the downward facing Narcissus blossoms, and he basically turned into a flower.
Yep. The literature review that I saw that he pined away in despair until he finally died and turned into a Narcissus.
Yeah.
And in some cases, he stabbed himself and his blood turned into the Narcissus. Kind of gory. But hey, that's Greek mythology for you, isn't it? So that's just a fun little name origin right there. And
so I have a little bit about, I guess, daffodil, comes from Great Britain. It was another name for asphodels or asphodelus, which is a different genus, which to me, it doesn't have a very similar flower, but they thought it was similar enough. So anyways, and jonquil comes from for juncus, which is our rushes, that's where jonquil comes from. And the foliage on those is round on true jonquils. And this is actually one here. It's hard to see that, but this is from a jonquillus variety Henrikii, which is actually way over there by Chris, but we'll show you that later on.
It does look like juncus.
So yeah, it has little cylindrical leaves versus your typical Narcissus. Most of the other ones have a flat leaf, which is a little bit
So
different.
Narcissus are a spring bulb, which is our geophytes. Those are the plants with underground storage organs. And the geophytes can include bulbs and corms and tubers and rhizomes. And of course, my favorite, the enlarged hypocotyl. And that's going to be your cyclamen for that one. A lot of folks call all of those bulbs, which is incorrect. Tim might fault you on that one, maybe, I don't know. But sometimes people just call them all bulbs, but they're not. But the Narcissus are actually a true bulb, and that is a tunicate bulb. And we have a bunch of layers all tightly wrapped, just like your onion, and the outside is scaly. So probably everyone in the audience has cut apart an onion before. That is a bulb, and all those layers are actually modified leaves that are built to store moisture and also nutrients for the following season. So the underground storage organ is to get that plant past the part of the year that it doesn't want to be alive and it can't survive out there. Yeah. So that is what a geophyte is. And the daffodils, there's an underground bulb, usually in a lot of different, multiple bulbs, and their bulbs persist from season to season. And the other bulb is a scale-like bulb, and they kind of look like your blooming onion when you go out to a restaurant where you can just kind of loosely peel them apart.
Or if you've ever seen a true lily bulb from Lilium, that's the other kind of scale-type bulbs. Yep. And they flake apart.
So do you know where Narcissus are native to, Tim?
Yeah, Narcissus are native to a lot of Southern Europe and then North Africa. I don't know if any of them range into Asia Minor or not, but they've been taken over there, if nothing else, and naturalized, as well as they aren't believed to be native to Great Britain, but the Romans took them there pretty early on. So, around I think they came in like the first 100 years of around 100 or 90 or 100, somewhere in there, to Great Britain.
And I read that the Iberian Peninsula is the kind of the home base for the genus, where there's more of them over there. I didn't know that.
Yeah, the center of
I assumed
diversity.
they were for further west or further east.
It would have to be east. Yeah,
I was
hard to
backwards.
go further west unless you get out into the Azores.
But they were further west, which I thought was pretty cool. So there we go, bulb types. We got a little ahead. So narcissus are really a great plant for your yard because they will perennialize, which means you plant them in 1 year and they will get bigger and better year after year after year after year. I have long come to the Arboretum. I was a graduate student back here in 1993, and my favorite planting is our February Gold, and that has just gotten better every season. The same thing does not happen with a lot of your other bulbs. If you plant tulips, they're not really going to perennialize in your landscape. You might only get 1 season out of them, or if you're lucky, a couple of seasons. But daffodils are one of those plants that come back over and over again. You might even find some old homesteads on the side of the road where the home is long gone, but the daffodils are still there. So that's pretty neat. Naturalizing is another term you also find with daffodils. And with naturalizing, that means the plants are actually starting to spread, and they will spread by seed. Can you mention any daffodils, Tim, that you think might spread by seed?
Maybe some of the species ones. You'd have to have them in a really good spot. I don't know that I ever have them go by seed naturally, but in the garden here. But probably some of the ones down at your end, there's some jonquilis types down there, as well as the Comey Eye. They might set seed and come up. Again, it's hard to say. But
and we'll show some close-ups in a little bit. We'll be getting there just a little bit for those of you that are wanting us to zoom.
Another reason, though, that they do naturalize or stay around real well for us is nothing eats them. And that goes back to those chemicals that I said about in the beginning, being in them, that Narc thing, those drugs. There's one of them, I think I put it on here somewhere on my little sheet, but my cheat sheet, I can't see it at the moment. Here it is. One of them has actually been used, one of those chemicals has been used to treat Alzheimer's.
Yep, I read that one.
Galantamine, which to me it sounds like galanthus, which are cousins actually. So that's the snowdrops, and so they probably a lot of those have the same chemical, active chemicals in them. But also that those nice nasty chemicals are also can cause skin irritation. So if you're handling them, the sap may cause skin irritation. And I'm guessing that might go to mouth irritation if any critters try to eat them.
So when you're planting your spring bulbs, and I'm using that term collectively, many of them are either in the amaryllis family, like daffodils are, or in the lily family. So if you happen to plant ones in the amaryllis family, normally nothing eats them. So the underground creatures like the voles won't touch them, and the above ground ones like the deer and the rabbits won't touch them. Whereas if you plant something in the lily family, they're eaten above ground and below ground. So if you have some animal predators out there for your plants, try some of the amaryllis family members because they won't be touched. Another reason why they're going to be long-lived out in your landscape. Because the tulips and the crocus, well, they're candy for anything
crocus,
below ground.
Squirrels adore them.
So we're going to move into the divisions of the daffodils. I almost called them amaryllis there. We're going to move into the divisions of the daffodils. And this is when I'm going to be doing a little bit of back and forth with some camera work as well. But we're going to start off with Division 1. I'm going to go down the list, of course, in order. And Division 1 is your Trumpet Narcissus. So that's going to be your classic daffodil, the one that you're used to, like the old King Alfred, which, by the way, is not really a daffodil that's found in the trade anymore. So if you ever buy King Alfred, it is going to be something else that is not King Alfred, is not produced anymore. It might be, but in very small numbers, not by the millions and millions that are sold out there in King Alfred. But the trumpet daffodil are born 1 flower per stem, and it's a really large flower. And the corona is also quite large. It is actually as large or longer than the perianth. And this is where I need to do a little bit of terminology. The corona, we'll do a zoom in just a moment. The corona is the sticky out part, the ring on the flower. And the perianth are the petals and the sepals that go around the outside. And those are called tepals because those sepals look like petals. So they just collectively call those sepals in that case. So the large trumpet have large trumpets where it actually is longer than the perianth. And I'm going to go to the camera right now. I'm going to do some zooming in action and get closer to Tim.
And unfortunately, the one I'm holding right now, I don't even know what it is. just picked it quickly, and I didn't look up which one it was, but this is a classic trumpet type right here. And Chris was saying the perianth, so you got your 6 tepals, as Chris said. The petals and sepals combined are tepals, especially when you can't tell. So it's not too difficult. You have 1, 2, 3 sepals and 1, 2, 3 petals. So in this case, and then you have the corona or the cup on the daffodil. So ones I do know, or one I did bring over here that I know, is this one here, which is a newer cultivar than King Alfred, but it's still not one I've heard of that much. It's one Baron Wynn, and it's just a simple trumpet here. It's a little bit softer yellow to me than this one right here, and has a little less frill. But so that's just a generic sample of a trumpet.
Right more there. Down there? Nope.
Pardon?
I know if you had done the one to show.
No, I don't. I don't have another trumpet. I figured everybody has seen this. This is the traditional form of.
It's the one
daffodil.
they all think about.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just a quick reminder to everyone, I didn't discuss it before. Please keep your microphones muted. I am not manning the computer, so I can't hit mute on everyone. So please go ahead and hit mute. Dennis, if you can hear us, I think you have the ability to mute people as well. So thank you for doing that. So I had to quiz Tim a little bit because it was not a factoid that I knew, but I quizzed him as to what the corona actually came from. What part of the plant was the corona? And he didn't know, but I didn't know either. So we both did not know the answer. The corona is not a petal. It is actually arising from a layer just inside of where the petals arise and between where the stamens and the pistils arise. So it's an entirely different layer that's unique to daffodil. I thought that was a pretty neat thing. So other trumpet narcissus include Unsurpassable, Mariecki, Dutch Master, and Mount Hood. Mount Hood, I think, is a white one.
It's a white one, yeah. This might be Dutch Master. I don't know offhand. Like I said, didn't look it up. I just picked it. So.
Dutch Master is one that you'll quite often find as a King Alfred replacement. Number 2, or division 2, is going to be your large cupped daffodils. And the large cup refers, of course, to the corona. And the corona is going to be at least 1/3 of the length of the perianth, or the outer petals, but not as long as them. So it's just like the large trumpet, but it has a smaller trumpet. So that's going to be the big difference for that one. And some examples of large trumpet include Flower Record, Ice Follies, and Carlton. And Carlton's a fairly common one as well. Ice Follies, I learned a little while ago, is one of Tim's least favorites. But if you ever read Dr. de Hertog's publication where he looked to see which ones are better at perennializing here in the Triangle area, Ice Follies, if I'm not mistaken, was his number 1 daffodil for perennializing.
Actually, growing up, it would force a handful of Narcissus back home in Pennsylvania in a refrigerator of all places.
Okay, where'd you
I
grow
could have
up?
them flowering in March instead of April.
That was Pennsylvania. Dr. de Hertog's publication was done here in the Triangle.
But Brent Heath, who Brent and Becky's, he's noted, he calls them ice floppies, because if we have a heavy rain, or actually these have flopped over in the garden because of a little bit of rain we got in the last day or so. But ice follies will fall over. So it's a really nice one for forcing, but it does like to fall over, and it is an easy one in the garden. Some other ones that we have of the large cup are, this one's a really cool one. This is Can Girl. Really, really fringed and frilly. And the cup is large on that, but it's so enfolded on itself that it just has a totally different look. And there's a handful of relatively pink ones. Some are better than others. This is Pink Charm, which is a long time one that's been around. Right here, this has a nice white with a pink corona. Oh, Chris is telling me to go down. I'm not in view, apparently. But anyways, they'll sometimes start out a little bit more yellow or orange when they first come out, and then they age to pink. So you might be disappointed when they first open if you haven't grown them before. But they do age to more pink. Later on, I'll have another one that kind of gets pink or salmon. But it's in a different group now. But this is Pink Charm. And I think that's all I have right here, anyways, for the large cup.
Whoop. I had to smack my microphone. Division 3 is your small cupped Narcissus. And of course, the cup is going to be the corona. So this is going to be a group that has a smaller one. And these cups or coronas going to be less than 1/3 of the length of the perianth, but still going to be a large flower. It's going to be 1 flower per stem. And these are usually long-term perennializers. So this is going to be a great group for planting out in your yard and having for a long time. And some of the cultivars include Burger, which I've never heard of, Barrett Browning, and Ceylon.
I don't know Ceylon offhand, but Barrett
Sounds
Browning,
like
yeah.
Battlestar Galactica. Isn't that where Ceylons were?
I don't know.
Must have been a sci-fi guy.
And this is one from the garden. There's more in the garden, but I was quickly going out in the rain yesterday morning, picking these, trying not to get too damp. But this is one called Matapan, Matapan, we've had for a very long time in the garden. Really nice white petal or tepals. And then you have this orange and yellow corona. And that orange and yellow, I think, comes from another Poeticus, the orange, that is, to red shades. I think are from some of the Poeticus Narcissus. And that's where also the pink color comes from as well. But this is just a nice one out in the garden. I only brought in one small cupped one. I have lots of large cupped ones. I have quite a few small cupped ones too in the garden. But for today, that's what I brought in here.
Okay. So we're up to Division 4. Division 4 is going to be an easy one to identify. This is the doubles. So if it has a really weird looking flower because there's a lot of petals, what looks like petals, that is going to be your doubles. And they typically have 1 flower per stem, but there are some that are, of course, have more than 1 flower per stem. And many of them are very adaptable to the south, so there could be a good one to plant. And some examples include Tahiti, Flower Drift, Orange Phoenix, and Cheerfulness. Flower Drift is one that I had in Texas, and that was actually my best one, and it perennialized very well even in Dallas-Fort Worth area and just did a phenomenal job. And Yellow Cheerfulness is my mother's favorite, or it seems like it's one of her favorites. We have that one at home, and she loves that one quite a bit.
Yeah, Cheerfulness and Yellow Cheerfulness would be similar to one of the ones I'm going to show you here, which it's a double, this is Abba, which is more or less a double Tazetta type. So Tazettas, we'll show you some later on, but this is something you run into. You'll run into some of the doubles, for instance, can be from multiple divisions of the Narcissus. But this is similar to Cheerfulness, but I don't think Cheerfulness has as much orange and yellow in it. So it's more of a pure creamy white. So, but that's Abba, like the music group. And then this one here, this is one I've grown up with. We had these in my yard back home. This is Telemonius Plenus, which is an really old cultivar. And do I have anything written up about this one? I don't think I did. But anyways, it's a couple hundred, several hundred years old is my guess. It's been around for a little while. Anyways, this is one back home in Pennsylvania where I'm from. You would see it where there was an old homestead years before and the house is gone, or they will be along the old cemeteries where some of the bulbs have gotten pulled out and thrown into the adjacent field or woods, and they'd still be there for decades and decades later on. But this one can vary a bit. There can be more or less doubleness to the flower itself. It may have distinct tepals on the back, and it may not. Or the corona may just be the only part that's double. But it varies a lot. But it's a really old cultivar.
Kind of reminds me of a peony. It's the peony version.
I guess maybe
peony version of Narcissus, right?
Yeah, and like peonies, it lives forever.
All right, we're to Division 5, one that has, well, I'll say it has some of my favorites, but I think I like all the daffodils. Division 5 is the Triandrus Narcissus, and that includes hybrids of Narcissus triandrus. What an original name, isn't it? These daffodils or narcissus have 2 to 3 nodding flowers per flower stem. The perianth, the outer petal-like things, face backward, so they're kind of reflexed. And the corona is teardropped in shape. And a synonym for the grouping is sometimes called the angel tear narcissus. These are mid-season to typically late flowering season. They're often very fragrant. They're usually very adaptable to the southeast. And a couple of good cultivars include Thalia, which is one that I've enjoyed for a long time, and Hawera.
And those are actually the two I have.
Oh,
but
how lucky.
Thalia has not opened yet. I tried to force a couple open and they didn't want to come out. I picked them yesterday. They're almost out. They'd be out tomorrow. But beautiful in our white garden. There's big clumps of these. And it's a later flowering one. But as Chris was saying, you can really see the 2 to 3 buds or blossoms per stalk on that. So that is a good example of that on the Thalia. It's just a really nice creamy white. And then I love Hawera. It's almost a miniature in the floret size. It can be, sometimes we'll have big clusters of them in different parts of the garden. And it's just starting right now, but this is Hawera. And again, you can see this has 3 florets to the flower stalk.
One thing I always thought about Thalia that I never thought about any other narcissus was it always reminded me of an orchid.
Yes.
And I thought
they're also described as being fuchsia-like.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see fuchsia, but I always thought they looked like an orchid for some reason. Division 6 is going to be your Cyclominius Narcissus, and I bet you can guess it. You are correct. These are going to be hybrids with Narcissus Cyclominius in the background, and these are typically single-flowered, and they also have a reflexed perianth. In other words, the outer petals face backwards. They have a long cylindrical corona. They are typically very early flowering, and they're usually on a shorter side, maybe upwards of 10 inches high or so. These are excellent perennializers. I mentioned earlier, the February Gold here at the Arboretum is one that I've enjoyed for a long time. Far as I know, that could have been planted by JC decades ago and the students decades and decades ago, and it still looks great here at the Arboretum. But some wonderful adaptive cultivars, of course, include February Gold, Jack Snipe, and Peeping Tom. Let's see what Tim has to show. I'm sure he has February Gold.
I don't have February Gold here. I didn't pick any. They're almost done.
They're almost done? Yep,
yeah,
they
came out late this year. They'll often come out. February Gold often opens for us in February, or actually January. But this year it was the last week in February. I thought, oh no, they're not going to make it. I've only ever remember one year that we didn't have February Golds before the end of February. It was the 1st of March. So this year they still got the February, but they are finishing up right now. So instead, I got you some other ones here. This is one I really like, and it's been prolific for us in the monocot garden. This is Rapture, and you can clearly see that. And Chris said about the Cyclominius. So I think of cyclamin whenever it was Cyclominius Narcissus. And if you know what a cyclamin is, the petals reflex on them. And again, you can really clearly see that here on these Raptures. Really nice, like Chris said, about 10, 12 inches tall maybe on that one. Surfside is another one we've had for years, is a white with a creamy yellow corona, very long corona on there. Another cute little one. And this is one, I don't know too much about this one, but this is Beryl, which is kind of an intermediate. It's almost it could be a Triandrus type almost if you think about it, but it only has 1 floret to a stalk. But these are also placed into the Cyclominius group. So. Oh, when I take it back, those jonquil. Never mind.
I just gave him a hint as what's coming up next.
I have a lot of the next one.
Division 7. Tim already let the cat out of the bag on that one. That's the jonquil type of Narcissus. And these are, of course, as you guessed it, hybrids of Narcissus jonquil. They usually have several flowers per flower stem, 3 to 6 or so. They're very fragrant, defined sometimes as a honeysuckle kind of a fragrance. They have small reed-like foliage. Tim showed you that earlier with the little juncus-like stems. And these are wonderful plants for southern gardens. So it's definitely one that you want to plant for perennializing in your home landscape. Some adapted cultivars include Stratosphere, Sweetness, and is that Quail?
Yep. Actually, I don't have it over here, but I have sweetness. Actually, right here.
No, let me get to the camera.
This is sweetness. Right there. And yes, very fragrant. I'll stick that back in there. But I have several other ones here. I have lots of jonquilla types. But the first one I have here is one called Golden Echo, which I like this. They have the golden or yellow corona, but the yellow fades back into the perianth there. So hence the Golden Echo. A tiny one, which this one I think wants to have really good lighting. And that's the thing with some of the jonquils. They tend to want good light to prosper. They don't. The February golds went back in the Cyclominius. You can give them part shade and they're fine. But the jonquillus want good light, full sun if possible. But this is one called Sabrosa, which could probably be thrown into an unofficial group of miniatures. It only gets maybe 8 inches tall, tiny little creamy yellow flowers there. And then let's see, I'm going to jump ahead to this one here. This is one called Coca Peli, which is, I guess, an Indian name for, I think it might be Navajo. But this is a really nice jonquillus type. These next 3, I really like. I've mentioned Brent and Becky Heath briefly from Brent and Becky Bulbs, which they provide us with a lot of our Narcissus in the garden and other bulbs. But anyways, these next 3 are some that Brent has hybridized over the years, and I really like these crosses. This is one I don't remember wasn't able to find one parent, but he's crossed jonquillus types with, in this case, I'm going to guess this was probably either a large cup or a trumpet, probably a large cup Narcissus. And I'm guessing it was probably something like pink charms. So you get that pink in there and you get pink and white, but it's very similar. You get to cross the characteristics of the jonquils, the straight jonquils, with some of the other types of daffodils. And I really like this one. This one is actually near the McSwain Center, and we have big patches of it. It's a wonderful bloomer, and it lasts. Some of the jonquils, the flowers will last either a month or more, which I find really desirable too. Another one, which I do have the parents of, this is Happy George. This is one, it's a small cup, is one of its parents, Jezebel, crossed with a jonquilla. And you get this really nice blossom here. So this deep orange corona and clear yellow tepals. And the third one here, this is Silver Smiles, which is a large cupped one called, it's a cross between a large cupped one called Olivet and jonquilla. It just has that soft yellow corona and the white perianth. I think that finishes my jonquils.
And it looks like we need to change sides, don't we?
Yeah, we can do that actually. Well, actually, it won't matter. You can just stay here because you're going to have to run back to the camera.
Well, I can come through between the tables.
Okay.
All right, Division 8. That is going to be your Tazetta types. And you're probably familiar with those because this includes your paper whites, that forcible Narcissus that has a very strong fragrance. So these are, of course, hybrids of Narcissus Tazetta, and they typically have 4 to 8 flowers per stem. They are small. Sometimes they're defined as being pungent because they have a very, very strong scent to them. Sometimes that scent's defined as being spicy. These do include hardy and non-hardy types of Narcissus, so some of them won't survive outside. Again, it includes your paper whites, and these are often great for southern plants or planting in southern gardens. An adaptable one for this area is going to be one called geranium.
And actually, if you want to grab the abbas, or I'll grab them. Never mind. You get the camera.
Can you guys repeat the name of so that I don't have to show?
Sure, I'll try to do that. So this is one I showed you earlier. This is Abba again, which is a double Tazetta type. So just showing you that one, as some of these have multiple divisions that they could theoretically fit into. And I forget I do have Brent and Becky's catalog here. I think it has the this one in here, if I remember correctly. Give me just a second. I think it tells me that this is a mutation of. I found it yesterday. Here we go. Cragford is what is a Casata type, which we don't have, but that's what this mutated from. So anyways, back to other true Casatas. We have Martinet, which is a really nice clear yellow with a small orange cup. Very heavy flowering ones for those. And we have Halvose. I can't spit this one out very well. It's Halvose. And again, you can clearly see that in. There we go. Yeah. And I also don't have Chris here to type in all the names for me. He would normally be. Yeah. So, and a tiny one. This is an adorable one. This is Canticulitis, which is only like 6 or 8 inches tall. And we have this growing on our roof garden. We haven't been able to get it to grow real in that many places because we think it likes it hot and dry in the summer. Canticulitis. Or I have to spit this one out. It's hard for me. I have to even look at the name. Canticulitis. I lost a syllable in there. It's Canalicullatus. Big name, little flower. But it's an adorable, probably what would be considered a dwarf or miniature type Casata.
I vote that one needs a new name. Trip on the drain. So we are at Division 9, the Poeticus type of Narcissus, which are, of course, hybrids of Narcissus poeticus. These are flat, solitary, dogwood-like flowers. They usually have a white perianth and green or yellow corona with maybe a red edge, spicy fragrance, and late flowering. And some cultivars include Actea and Cantabile. I know, Cantabile. And I'm looking down weirdly because I didn't bring my reading glasses.
Chris. I don't have any of those.
Oh, Tim doesn't have any of them.
They're late flowering. And some of the Poeticus ones they'll flower into May. So they're some of our latest flowering Narcissus here. And they haven't opened yet. So
come back to the Arboretum in May. Division 10 is going to be the Bulbacodium ones. Bulbacodium is a species sometimes called hoop petticoats. And these are usually one flower to a stem. The perianth segments is insignificant. They're kind of just almost not even there, just kind of very very reduced in size. And the filaments and styles are usually curved inside the plant. And by hoop petticoat, you'll see it in just a moment. They do like a hoop petticoat dress. And that was the end of my stuff over here. Let me get the camera, Tim.
Okay.
And to me, this is one of the most unique of the flowers.
I'm going to hold her up like this. This is why I think it looks like a little dress.
Let me zoom in on it.
She looks like she's holding her arms down. And she has that big dress. But here's your flower. They aren't pendulous like most of your other Narcissus. And this is one called White Petticoat, which we've just planted a couple of years ago, but it's done very well for us. Not all of them have been long persisting for us, but this one's done very well, and it's actually forming some good clumps. It's the only one I have left in the garden right now. There are some forms of hoop petticoats that are species actually that flower in the fall, and there's been hybrids that flower through the early winter and into as well. So most of them are done flowering for us, though there are some later flowering ones too. But that's the only example I have for you. And I put them in the refrigerator last night just to make sure they weren't done this morning.
Division 12. Well, this is going to be the
forgot 11, Chris.
Well, I did. Yep. I skipped one. Sorry. Can't make it over early, can I?
No.
Division 11 is going to be the split corona. So these are the ones that actually have the crown, but it's split into different pieces. And the corona is usually, or the corona needs to be split at least 1/3 of the length of the corona to be considered a split corona type. These have a large up-facing flower, and a synonym is often Papillion daffodils.
Oh, that's the separate one. It's
Yes.
a subgroup.
It's a synonym. Yep.
It's subgroup within the or division within the subdivision. That's
Let me get the camera up to you, Tim.
Okay, I have actually a few of these. So the first one here is a pretty cool one. This is cum laude. This is a really nice early to mid-season one with the corona. This has a peach-colored split corona on it. So, and we've had a few plants of that for decades in the garden. We actually almost lost it, thought it was lost for a while, and I found it, and it's building back up in numbers slowly. And this is a newer one for us. This is Sailor Man. So you can really see he's all split up. And actually, you can clearly see the petals right here, or these actually shorter ones. And then this one, these are the sepals. So those almost aren't even tepals. You can distinguish between them. And then this is one of my favorites from the garden. Heavy flowering one. This one's about past, but it changes color. To me, it's reminiscent of ice falling in the colors, and it goes through that color change. You get nice falls, but this has a split corona. This is Casata. And we've had it in the perennial border for decades. And a few years ago, Doug, he divided them, and he was moving them. He moved them back further in the border. And he planted a whole bunch, big patch. He had a bucket left. And so I said, I'll put some in the monocoque garden. And I put the smaller bulbs in. Can't tell. They grew like a weed. And there were still some extras, which we gave to our volunteers. But this is super heavy flowering. And it's persistent, good foliage, really nice plant. I can't speak highly enough about this one. Casata, Cassata.
Well, now that you've told everyone that's your favorite, is that one you can buy?
Actually, Brent and Becky's had it in this past year's catalog, which I hadn't seen it for a long time. So, and I'm sure I had some other bulb companies send me catalogs online, and they had them in them actually, which I thought was ironic. And then this is one I wasn't sure of which group it went into, subgroup that is. The ones I've shown you are all actually the subgroup. It's 11A, which are they're the collar daffodils. And then I thought this might be the papilio, but it's not. But this is another one, Slice of Life, which is a really cool one, which has, I'm guessing, might be a cross with a jonquillis or something to get that multiple florets on that, but I'm not certain on that. And I don't know, let me smell it. It has a really good fragrance too. So that could be another indicator that it might have some jonquillis in its bloodline, or jonquilla. Anyway, Slice of Life. And that ends that group.
Now we'll get to the group that I almost skipped the other one for.
The 12?
Yep. So group 12 or division 12, miscellaneous Narcissus. Just as its name indicates, this is a group where, if it wasn't already talked about, this is where it's going to wind up in here. And this does include many of the miniatures, although Tim said sometimes the miniatures are grouped into their own listing. And one of the favorite ones for group 12 is going to be Tete-a-Tete. I know that's one that I have really liked myself over the years. Let's see what Tim has to show.
I have Tete-a-Tete.
Hey, great.
And then I have a mutation of Tete-a-Tete, which could actually be lumped into another group. So anyways, we'll start with Tete-a-Tete, which it has Tete-a-Tete has these little, I don't know if it's French or what, but it has these little V things over top the spelling. But anyways, this is Tete-a-Tete. And you'll often see this one in containers forced in the winter. It's a really common one you'll see in the small pots, and you'll get Tete-a-Tete. But 1 to 3 florets to a stalk. It'll produce several flower stalks, or 2 or 3 flower stalks to a bulb pretty often. But that's a traditional one that you see. And there was a mutation of it And again, this is a double form, and it's tete. It's French. I can't spit it out. It's Boucle with an accent on it. Whatever that pronounces as. That's what this is, which this could also be classified as a double, as you can see, but it was a double mutation of tete. And those are my two oddball ones.
Cool. We got some other ones to show?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Those are my two oddball ones.
Well, there was more on the table. I don't know.
Those are species.
Well, then that's why I said you have more to show them.
But they're species.
Well, I don't have. That's where my divisions
do the species.
That's where my divisions end. You want to talk about those?
Group 13 is species, more or less. So division 13, the distinguished solely by botanical names. So I have a few of those here. And the first one here, we have it actually. I noticed. We have it listed as two different names in our records now. So we might have to see if Dennis wants to figure out which one we want to have. This is Narcissus Odorous Plenus or Pleno, which you'll see it both ways. So I don't know which one is the correct name right now, but this, the Narcissus Odorous is actually a naturally occurring hybrid between Narcissus jonquillus and Narcissus pseudonarcissus. So this was an early hybrid, like I said, that came about in the wild. And then this is a double form of it. So this is, like I said, Plenus or Plena. I don't know which name is correct at this moment. Another of the, actually we'll do a jonquil, since we were just talking about a jonquil hybrid. This is Narcissus jonquillus variety Henricii. Or Enriquii, or Enriquii. I'm getting it, missing a letter or two in there. I don't say it right, but these are often really early flowering forests. Typically, we'll start having flowers of these in January. Only about 8 to 10 inches tall. It forms big clusters in our scree garden. This year, it was later flowering, so they're still holding on. They're almost finished right now. They'll be out for a couple more days, though. Yeah, and it has a good fragrance. Yep. It's Narcissus jonquilla, variety Henricii. So HENRIQUESII.
Is that a printed label?
Do you need a longer arm, Chris?
No, we got it.
And since the first one I showed you in this group was a hybrid of jonquillus and pseudonarcissus, I'll show you this one. This is Narcissus pseudonarcissus muscutus, variety or subspecies muscutus, which is a white form. And this has that typical traditional trumpet type flower. And this is just so delicate. We have these in the perennial border. Most years they're profuse flowering. This year they're taking a little bit off, it seems. We only had a handful of blossoms this year. But this one you can't find very often anymore. And it only doesn't show the full name, unfortunately. It didn't print out because the name was too long.
You want to see it again?
It's Narcissus pseudonarcissus subspecies muscutus. And don't ask me how to, I'm terrible at spelling the muscutus, but it's MOS, I believe.
We'll say like hibiscus.
It's like hibiscus muscutus, or actually Abelmostus muscutus, some of the okras. And then one last one here is another, I'm guessing it's probably sometimes lumped in with the jonquillus, but this is one of our tiniest ones. This is Comey Eye, and it's only 6 inches tall. It has to have full sun to flower well, but it's really dense little thing when it's happy and content. It's one of my favorites. Just an adorable little thing. When the flowers don't stick above the foliage even most of the time when they're in flower, but they're so dense.
Is that the one you're the?
It's right over there. Yes. And we have some big clumps of it in the mixed border too.
But now in like full sun, right?
Yeah, we actually had, when I first started working here, they moved them all from the brick circle over here. They thought anyways. A couple of them stayed. But anyways, they moved them to the mixed border, but they didn't get them in full blazing sun and they wouldn't flower. So they relocated them a couple of years ago in the border and they flower really well again. And there were a couple bulbs that managed to stay over in the brick circle. They didn't get every single one. And they have made a beautiful patch there again.
Now, is that one that seeds?
No, I've never seen it seed. Okay. I think it's just the bulbs are tiny. They're pea size, probably.
It multiplies like it has seeded.
Yes, I mean, but it's always in the same spot. But that is probably one of my all-time favorites of the species types that we have. We have way more than that in the garden. And now that we're open, if you're local, you can come in the afternoons and see a few of them.
Yeah, come on down. So narcissus are going to be planted in the fall. And at that time, that is when the roots start to grow. So that's going to be important to get them planted. Fall is also the time of the year where you fertilize narcissus. A lot of people will fertilize them in the spring. That's not correct. The further they are closer to flowering is when they're not absorbing the nutrients anywhere near as much as they do as in the fall. They are actually better fertilized even before the leaves pop up, but sometimes you don't even know where they're going to be. So fertilize them the moment you see the leaves first start coming out of the ground, because that's when the nutrients are most important for the plants. And any comment about fertilizer, Tim? You got a favorite kind that you like to use on them?
No, I'm not offhand, because here in the garden, they don't get fertilized.
So planting season is going to be late October through December in this area for Narcissus. And we've talked a little bit about the sunlight requirements for Narcissus. They do like a lot of sun. You were mentioning February gold. The Cyclominius types can handle a little bit of shade, so they can go inside some of your forests. But overall, a lot of sun is great for most of them, so a high pine will be fine. And if you want to do plant them in your forested areas, do the really early flowering ones in the forested area, so they can finish a life cycle earlier so they can be finished before the trees start leafing out. For fertility rate, just go ahead and follow the label. It'll tell you how much to fertilize, and that'll be perfectly fine for them. Tim had nothing to add on that. Now, I don't think I've fertilized mine in years and years. We've never fertilized ours here, have we?
And I don't even know if they recommend it anymore. It used to be bone meal, but that was 30 years ago, or more than 30 years ago, that I remember doing that. But
when I worked at the garden center, there was a product called Bulb Booster, I think. It was a very popular fertilizer, especially formulated for a wide variety of them. I know that's a very recommended one. It used to come in a bucket. That was over 20 years ago, so I'm not too sure how it's sold anymore, but that was always a very popular one. So we already talked about them in being in the Amaryllis family. Again, if you can plant anything in that family, they're typically toxic for wildlife. So I'm sure Marilyn's on here. We like to plug her all the time because she has a whole lot of deer. So if you have a problem with deer or voles, narcissus are a great one. They help liven up your spring. They look great at this time of the year. They're just wonderful to see. As Tim mentioned, the Arboretum is now open. We opened up today for the very first time. At this time, we're open from noon until 4:30 in the afternoon. So noon until 4:30. What'd you say?
Just weekdays.
Just weekdays, yes. I was just mentioning that.
We're not doing the weekend yet.
Just weekdays, so Monday through Friday. Tim, I think you had a book. You want to mention anything about the book?
I just brought it out as a reference, but there's it's not one specific to it, but we used to have one here that was all the cultivars at the time that was printed of Narcissus. But this is just an old a bulb manual, which has a pretty good Narcissus section in it.
You want to hold the cover for the camera?
Yeah, let me see here. I'm going to do something real quick.
And of course, Brent and Becky's catalog is a great reference.
There's about 20 pages in this book, and it doesn't have pictures of species and probably cultivars of Narcissus and the different groups. It talks about them. But yeah, Brent and Becky's is a wonderful resource, whether this is a 2018 catalog, actually we had lying around, but wonderful as a reference, if nothing else. And so it has probably 15, 20 pages of just Narcissus. As Brent, I think their business used to be Daffodil Heart, if I remember correctly. So his family has like 100 years or something like that of experience with Narcissus, and a lot of it's for the South. So It's a really good reference in general, and you get so many different possibilities and cultivars from there. So,
okay. And this is going to be a good time for the Q&A, Tim. So I'm going to go to the computer.
Oh no!
So I'm going to be off screen, which is where you probably prefer.
Oh, good.
Oh, has he?
Maybe he's gotten them all.
So this would be a good time, everyone, for some last minute questions, because that's kind of the end of what we had for you for the show. What is the earliest Narcissus at the Arboretum, Tim?
It depends how you look at it, because some of them come up in the fall, and that would be
we'll call that early.
Okay, we don't have too many of the early ones, like some of the Bulbacodium types. I think it's some subspecies will flower in October, November, but I don't think we have any of those yet. But we have probably the first trumpet traditional daffodil we have is Rheinfeld's Early Sensation.
That one used to be planted near my office.
Actually, they're right behind me. And they started wait a second here.
Oh, we lost Tim.
That's fine.
He's off in the gardens.
Oh, this is one. These just finished flowering. You can see the spent flower. This was spent about a week and a half ago. This one here is what started opening before Christmas this year. So
they're usually in flower before I leave for the holidays.
Yes. So that's probably one of the most consistent and the most traditional. I mean, it looks like it's your typical yellow trumpet daffodil.
And Marilyn's asking, how well does that one do in this area?
It has done fairly well. We had some in the winter garden years ago that got shaded out, but they were moved to the geophyte border, and they're now starting to bulk up a little bit there. We got some new ones from Brent and Becky's in December of 2019, before we closed down, and they got planted. And that's what this new patch is right here. So,
okay. And Chris is asking, how cold does it need to get, and for how long?
Oh,
this area is perfect for
it. Probably depends on the species and the cultivar, because some of the Cassatas in particular do not want cold.
Yep.
Like paper whites are borderline hardy here in Raleigh. They can actually freeze out or get damaged because they come up so early. So some of them need very little, and I don't know the hour-wise on them or week-wise anymore.
But overall, they do good. They're not anywhere near as bad as tulips are for this area.
No. They're fine and dandy here in the Southeast. They grow daffodils down into Texas, and in the Gulf Coast, no problem. So hour-wise, we're probably fine here. We can grow such a wide variety here. You can theoretically probably have a Narcissus flowering from October to May here if you really wanted to.
And Nancy's asking about the fertilizer. So she's asked, when do you add the bulb fertilizer? We covered that just a moment ago. Narcissus will only use the fertilizer. In other words, they take it up early as they are just starting to grow. So their best time for nutrient absorption is before you can even see them coming out of the ground. So you want to fertilize your Narcissus as soon as you see the first leaf popping up. If you fertilize them when they're in flower, they are no longer absorbing the fertilizer, so you're just wasting it. Do not fertilize them once they've started flowering. You're much better off when the leaves first start coming up.
Or even before, if you know where they're planted.
Yep. And Carol has asked, what is that December flowering one again?
Rheinfeld's Early Sensation. I don't know if I have the label over here.
Carol, that one was typed earlier in the chat, so you can scroll up. That was one that Marilyn typed in the name.
Tell me whenever this is visible.
It's not going to come through, Tim, because it really is finicky for focusing.
I'll give it to Catherine here.
Okay, looking for more questions. Twilla's asking if she has a daffodil stand that does not bloom. Is it because they need to be separated?
It depends. What kind of light are they getting?
That's what I was thinking. So Twilla, it could be that you just have them in a lot more shade than they used to be in. So just check exposure. As you can see, a lot of them do like a lot of sun, but it could be because they need to be divided. Yeah. So if you have just really crammed together Narcissus, that could be the reason why.
And also, if you're like people where I'm from, the foliage stays up and they get ugly and people want to chop it back too soon.
Yep, we did not cover that. Do not cut the foliage off the plants. You can assume or just make an analogy that plants' leaves are solar collectors. So it's like if you had a house that had solar panels on the roof, you don't remove them because you don't like the way they look. They're providing energy for the plants. So leave the leaves on until they're brown. Marilyn, that is correct that the bed number thing is not working on our plants. Dennis and I have a task to do. We apologize for that. I just haven't had a chance to work with Dennis on that. We'll get it back going in just a little while. This is a neat question. Barbara has asked, do these bulbs work their way up to the top of the soil? And Barbara, it is actually the opposite way. Many of the bulbs, I don't know if it's all of them, so I'm just going to say many, have contractile roots.
So Narcissus do.
And Narcissus do. So you can actually plant them shallower and they will pull themselves down. But if you plant your bulb too deep, they will not push their way out. So you're better to do the opposite by planting them too shallow because they will find their correct way up. And in fact, I remember reading something before that a really easy way to plant them is just to kind of loosely till the soil on the surface, just kind of shove the daffodils down into the soil and just mulch them. And they will eventually pull themselves down to the depth they need to be. But typically, the bigger the bulb is, the deeper it goes. But you're probably only planting 4 to 6 inches deep for most of them anyway, so they're not really all that deep. Rosanna has asked, can she cut the spent flowers without harm? And
yeah,
of course.
You can cut the spent flowers, no problem.
Yep. Unless you want to collect the seed for some reason, you go ahead and cut them off. What is the best time to divide? I like to divide mine just as they're going dormant because that's when I can find them.
Yeah, exactly.
So just as the leaves are turning brown.
You wait too long, you can't find the foliage, and you don't know where they're at in the fall anyways until they push up. So
yep, you can do it in the summertime. You just have no clue where they are unless you have them labeled for some reason or somehow. Betty has asked, can you tie or braid the leaves up in bloom? Well, Betty, go back to my solar panel analogy. You wouldn't want to stack all your solar panels in a neat bundle, would you, on top of your roof? You want to have them nice and exposed. So the more exposed your leaves are, the better off they are. So bundling is a whole lot better than cutting them off.
Yeah.
But bundling is a whole lot worse than just leaving them alone.
And also, you're probably bruising them and damage them, so they won't.
Yeah, you could do that.
Be as effective at collecting light, anyways.
So Marilyn said that she has heard that the Poeticus types don't do well in our heat. Is that true or false?
That I don't know. We have a handful in the garden, but there aren't as many selections of those that I know of.
Yep. So Marilyn,
they tend to be real late, so that could be why. It might be that they just don't last as long once they open.
Yep. So try them over here, or try the ones that we have over here. Amy has asked, can you propagate them by seed? And I'm sure you can. That's what the seed is for. I've never done it.
But it's going to take years to get a flowering size bulb.
How long do you think?
I'm going to say 5 to 7 years.
That could take a long time. I planted amaryllis from seed a while ago, and I had, I think, at least one that flowered within a year.
They stay evergreen too.
Yeah, that's true.
So, or that is if they're at higher temperatures. Your Narcissus don't. They have a season. So it takes several years.
Yep. And Paul, who's often in our presentation, said the Poeticus type do well in Wilmington.
Yeah. Oh, and, they're warmer than us.
And Annabelle said that her Poeticus do well as well. So it might be that you just don't see a lot of them out there in the market. Well, does anyone have any more questions? I don't see any. Oh, hey, Lynn, that's where I was going to go next. So the plant buggy has changed a little bit. We have the plant buggy will be at the Arboretum Monday through Friday from noon until 4:30, but it will be at the street at 8 a.m. in the morning on Tuesdays and Thursdays, just like it has. So it's 5 days a week with more time on Tuesdays and Wednesdays or Tuesdays and Thursdays. But once the Arboretum is open on 12 o'clock, it'll be here and ready to go. So come on in. It'll be out here for you. The plant cart on the website's already been updated.
Actually,
it'll be outside tomorrow. It's already there.
Doug, I think, is refreshing it as we speak.
Oh, Doug is restocking it right now. So come on down before 4:30. You'll find new things on it already.
Yeah.
And I think Tim might have the list. Is that the list, Tim?
Yeah, some of them are the same from the other day, but I think he's added, let's see, some Iphion, Uniflorum White Star.
Ooh.
Let's see, I don't think he had, this one's these are $10. The Daphne Odora Wild Winter. Ooh. We have some little plants of that. And I think everything else was on it the other day as well. So I won't rehash those. So if you look on the web, they'd be the same.
Check the list on the website. Catherine just posted the URL for that one. You can see we'll be out at the website, and we might be just down one of the Daphnes before I leave today. Because I've never had one before. I wanted to do one. I meant to propagate them in a propagation workshop, but I forgot I wanted to do
Yeah, they'd be
them.
good in the winter.
Oh, well, I blew it. Well, I see no more questions in the chat. So that must mean it's time to go out in your gardens. Have fun, everyone. We will see you later, hopefully on Saturday for the North American Rock Garden Society with John Dole. We'll see you then. Have a nice day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us today. It was kind of weird. We had a small little audience for part of today's program.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks, Tim. All 40 of my co-watchers say
you're
thank
welcome.
you. Thanks a lot. It was great.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Great presentation. Just didn't get all the names.
Well, you can rewatch it and check our records because every daffodil you saw today is going to be listed in our plants on our website. So just type in Narcissus. You can see it up there in the chat.
Thank you so much.
And hopefully with Tim's pronunciations and mine, you can at least get a little bit close on them. And I'll be back in the chat next time for typing.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Have a fun Wednesday, everyone. Hope to see you in the garden real soon.